Okay, for the sake of time and brevity here, I'm going to review both of these books together. This is Into the Fringe and Taken by Karla Turner, Ph.D. And um, Karla Turner, very sad story. This was a she was a I believe she was an English. Her PhD was in English literature, and she taught at North Texas. So she was a fellow Texan, and you can find a lot of her articles that she wrote in UFO magazine back in the early to mid 90s. I think she passed away in like 96, 97 or so, not long after she put out these books. And under circumstances, I think she died of cancer, but given the direction of her writing and the direction of some of the stuff she was getting into, it does beg the question of if maybe there was more to that than that. And I'll leave it at that and move on. But um, her work is really interesting. I believe this was her first one taken. I can't remember which of these came first. Hold on just a second. We're going to find out together. So this is from 1994, taken, and this is from Into the Fringe is from 1992. So this is the first one. Now, um, so this, and I think recently, I think her husband, I think her family has gotten this published for a while. This was out of print and very hard to get. And I think there's actually a couple of other books that she has that I actually have as PDF files that I printed out in my collection. I think now you can now actually purchase them as books. I think originally there for a while you couldn't. And this is why I find Karla Turner's work, Dr. Turner's work, so interesting is she approached it as an academic. She was experiencing abduction phenomenon. She was experiencing a lot of missing time and abduction stuff. And the interesting thing is it didn't just affect her, it affected her husband and her grown son. And I believe one of his friends as well. And the book Into the Fringe goes into that extensively and very well documents her sightings, her UFO experiences, her abduction experiences, all really strange. And she took the angle of that these do not seem to be benevolent events. This does not seem to be something done for, maybe it's done for the good of the aliens or whatever, but it's not done for our benefit. And really started digging into that. And the more she started looking into it, she started seeing a paramilitary angle to this as well, and seeing that there was some really odd paramilitary activity associated with this. There were times when they would see unmarked helicopters and unmarked vans and things. And at one point, and I believe this is Into the Fringe, and I'm surprised I don't have this marked in here. I believe it's Into the Fringe where they actually got the license plate number of a van that was following them and involved in some weird activity around her, and they took that license plate information to the DPS or somebody and reported it to try to figure out who this was, and it traced to a federal agency that she felt uncomfortable about even mentioning in this book. So I would guess that it could well have been the NSA or somebody like that, but I'm also thinking it might have been FEMA. And that's where this also gets interesting, because a lot of what she reported in the area of around University of North Texas in Denton has a massive FEMA bunker up there. At the end of this video, I'm going to put a link to a video I have of that bunker. So if you're unfamiliar with it, click on that, take a look. It's no voiceover or anything, but just to give you an idea of that bunker and a good view of it. So check that out if you are unfamiliar with that. But my guess is she and her husband both reported being taken to some kind of underground facility, and I think I would guess that was probably the FEMA bunker in Denton, or something possibly connected to that bunker up in that area. So interesting progression that you see through. And Taken is more, she interviews several other fellow female abductees from all over Texas, and I think other places in the South here, and kind of compares their stories and documents them all in Taken. But this Into the Fringe is just the story of her family and all the accounts, all of their personal accounts of this. But very interesting because, again, the way she approached this was very scholarly, and she didn't, very unsensational. And she kind of progressed from being a believer in, wow, the aliens are picking me up, to, wait a second, there might actually be possibly a mind control angle to this. There might be something very different going on than just aliens. I think Greg Bishop even interviewed her at one point. You can find, there's a recording of that out there, somewhere, the audio of that. And I think when she started talking about some of the military connections and some of that, I think that's when she became a problem, of personal opinion. So anyway, very interesting accounts of that. And like I said, you could find this, I think it's since been republished. It's sad that she is not around because she was pretty sharp. And you can see, if you go on YouTube, you can search Karla Turner abduction or something. You can probably find some of her lectures, and there's some really weird stuff. Some you can find, if you can find some of the audio files of some of the things she describes. There's some really bizarre accounts that she was able to compile. And she was one of the ones that realized that a lot of researchers were taking, like Bud Hopkins, were taking a lot of abduction accounts and stripping away any of the human activity in these accounts and just presenting the alien, the prepackaged alien angle to their readers. And she said, that's not accurate. There's a lot of these people that are being abducted, and their accounts that have appeared in books and all are missing these other elements because the authors didn't, like Bud Hopkins, didn't feel like they fit that proper UFO narrative. So she does a really good job of putting that all in there and saying there might be, like, there might be more going on here than we realize. And again, that more of a paramilitary angle, more of a possible, multiple intelligence agencies involved. A lot of that is definitely worth looking into, because that's kind of my reason for digging into this. I'm an alien, I'm not agnostic, but I think the paramilitary angle and intelligence agency angle is really important to a lot of probably what we're even dealing with right now. So definitely worth a look. At the very least, you can go search some of her material online to find a lot of it just on YouTube. But I think both of these have since been reprinted, so I think they're relatively easy to find now. So there you go, Into the Fringe and Taken by Dr. Karla Turner.